It's been a week, but Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
We were supposed to have this up a week ago. This is our Ranking Star Wars show, our third annual Ranking Star Wars. This is the Rebel Scum podcast. My name is James Razile. Joining me is the normal guy who is right here somewhere. Where are you, bro?
Actually, I'm like exactly across the recording box. There's everyone's seeing a 4 box, and I'm as far away from you as possible.
You are. You absolutely are. One of our computers just updated. Joining us is also Andrew Fantasia. Andrew, Happy New Year. What's up?
Happy New Year, sirs. I hope everybody's doing well, and I'm excited to rank some things. We're ranking Indiana Jones, right?
We're ranking Indiana Jones and Shenmue 1 and 2. And joining us for the first time in a long, long while, his much anticipated return, the Dark Lord himself, Darth Ward, is here to bring his wrath upon the rankings of Star Wars. Rob, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, happy belated Droid Day, happy belated Life Day, everything. Enjoy it all, and I had a very nice back-to-take soaking just before this, so it was great.
Perfect. You need that after your hiatus. This Ranking Star Wars is just like every other Ranking Star Wars, where the four of us give our list of our BS list, I should say, of our top 10 now Star Wars films, the theatrical live-action releases and whatnot. So the Clone Wars animated one does not count, nor do Brock, sorry to say, the Ewok films do not count as well.
This is BS.
But we did that. So Aaron joins us on this as well. But this year we had actually around 30 people send us lists. So this list is as far from ours as possible. So this is the real definitive Rebel Scum podcast list. And I'm not going to name everybody who are involved, but our Patreons were a big part of it. So thank you all the Patreons that sent your list to us. That was awesome to see. We also have Fatty Fan Theories from the No Inner Monologue podcast. Check out that podcast. We have Josh from the Den of Nerds. Don't go to his YouTube channel.
Boo.
Ezra from Rebel Watch. Check that one out. I'll be doing a video with him soon. And Joshua from the JRB Nerdcast was also on it. And like I said, all of the Patrons, there were like 20 Patreons, past and present, who submitted their top 10 Star Wars films. So before we get into it, Brock, anything that you are expecting or any surprises you think we're going to see along the way?
I think Han Solo's going to shake it up a bit. I know there is a mix, not as much of a mix like Last Jedi, but I think it's going to mess with the numbers. You see a young player like Han Solo coming in, a solo Star Wars story, and it'll shake up just how our league of movie rating, it'll shake up how it used to go down. So
I will say somebody had it second last on their list, and they said they did not put it last out of respect to me. Rob, any surprises you see happening along the way in this top 10 ranking, the definitive top 10 ranking, the only top 10 ranking that matters of all the Star Wars ranking films?
Well, I mean, just having the patrons involved in it is going to, freshen things up a little bit. Like, obviously, I think the last two, we've consistently had both Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back the top two beforehand. And, but who knows? With the patrons voting, it might switch it up a little bit. Who knows?
Andrew, I hate you.
Yeah, I love that there's... I love that there's such a big number of people doing a list this time because of what Rob just said. We kind of tend to stick to our guns here at Rebel Scum Podcast. We like what we like, and our lists fluctuate very, very tiny amounts. So the fact that 1 billion, I think that's exactly the right number, 1 billion people you said have contributed to these lists, I think that's really going to make for some interesting scores at the end of the day.
Well, I know the entire rankings right now, so I can't say too much, but I will say that last year, 3 of the, I believe it was 5 of us last year, ranked our Star Wars. 3 of the 5 had The Last Jedi at number 1 last year. This year, out of, I don't remember the actual number, I'll have to look it up, but out of all the people that had it, only 1 had The Last Jedi, number 1. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The other two of the two of the ones that had it number 1, it actually dropped to like middle of the rankings. That's what's fun about it, is it's Star Wars. We'll like them all. So any given time, this list could change. All right, you guys want to get started?
Let's do it.
I don't I don't even want to say what number 10 is. I just want to go straight to Andrew Fantasia and tell me what you think about Attack of the Clones.
Oh, he left.
It just went away.
That was perfect.
That's how upset he is.
Oh, sorry, I missed the question, James. I just heard my name.
So, everyone but 2 people had Attack of the Clones dead last. We were those 2 people, Andrew. How do you feel about Attack of the Clones?
I stand by what I've been saying for many, many years. Attack of the Clones is the best prequel by a considerable margin. And I don't remember where I had it because I made my list many weeks ago. But it is, I had it above, I think I had it above A New Hope. It's up there. It's probably like in my top 5. I will never stop loving Attack of the Clones. And I know people will never stop hating it, and that's okay, but there's so much about that movie that just drives me crazy in a great way. And I'll never not have joy when I see the Colosseum and when I see Yoda versus Dooku and when I see the chase through Coruscant. That'll never not bring me joy.
Brock, it doesn't bring you joy. Why?
I will say this. I placed it almost exactly the same place for all the prequel movies as I did last year. And I thought about it recently. It's like, it's not fair because I can't tell you the last time I watched one of the prequels. So I think next year I am going to force myself to watch all these movies before we can force myself. Like I need to be forced. But here's what I will say about Attack of the Clones. I've said before. It is one of the most memeable Star Wars movies on the internet these days. Sand, I hate sand. Sand is rough, of course. Whatever it is, you know. Oh, look at this! Oh, whoa! I got so excited about memes. The Camino thing with Dax, and I don't think Hello There, General Kenobi. That's Attack of the Clones. That's probably on the higher ones. But there are so many memes in this movie, and in this social media world, it brings relevance. So thinking about that now in my choice next year, it might be higher. Also, I hate Andrew, so.
Yeah, that's why. It wasn't actually last. I put it last. Rob, this movie disgusts you.
Disgust was never the right thing, and I just never really liked the movie, but I actually did, I myself rewatched all 3 prequels earlier this year, just because I wanted to compare it to like some of the newer ones, and, you know, my dislike that I had of The Last Jedi a little bit. And it's still not as bad as I remember. It's got this rough patches, the whole droid factory stuff. That's pretty rough. And yeah, it's just not as bad as I remembered it being. Like, I definitely don't hate this movie anymore. I just kind of like, it's not great. Could be better. Could definitely be better. But yeah, I think the number one thing that's going to bring it down is the sand people violence, right? Sand people lives matter, guys. Come on.
That's true.
I love Attack, but not as much as I love our number 9 movie, The Phantom Menace. I was dating, pushing this movie up because nobody would know.
That's
like,
the thing, eh?
What if I made this movie 3rd? No one would know. And I was like, wow, those 20 other people, they all put it really high. I love The Phantom Menace. I don't think I need to talk about it any more than that. Rob, you still despise this movie.
Yeah, it's still not a despise thing for me. I mean, yeah, Jar Jar is like kind of like turning the curve. I feel like for a lot of Star Wars fans, like, you know, people like 10 years ago, I feel like you'd be scarce to find like the Jar Jar lovers, and you know, now it's like, you know, he's okay. He can be fun. He's fun for kids, and still, I think one of the things that's definitely highlighted on is that it has maybe the best, or at least one of the best, lightsaber duels out of any Star Wars movie. That's a huge highlight for it. So, yeah, that's something. And you know, the first time hearing Duel of the Fates is just amazing. So,
Andrew,
I'm kind of in shock that this year is the 20-year anniversary of the Phantom Menace.
Wow.
And I think that, you know, just the hate this movie has gotten over the years. Again, I can't remember where I put it in my list. It's probably not super high, but I don't hate it at all. I feel like this year, more than any year, we need to celebrate the specialness of this movie, and we need to remember, all the things we loved about it. We need to remember what our headspace was, because we were so excited for a Star Wars, just like we were back in 2015. And that's something we're never going to forget, regardless of how much we may or may not like Jar Jar Binks. So celebrate its 20th birthday, whether you love it or hate it. This movie is a real movie. It exists, and just have fun with that.
Brock, tell me why this plays number 2 on your list.
Number 2. Number 9, you mean? I gonna, as much as it eats me away inside, I'm gonna agree with Andrew on this one. This should place a little higher because, one, nostalgia. 20 years ago, we all went to this would have been, for all of us, I assume, the first time we went on like an opening week to see a Star Wars movie, or just to see it for the first time. Not like it's reshown or what have you with the original trilogy. But also, we should take this movie into more consideration, because now with Han Solo reintroducing the fact that Maul can still be alive in a cinematic form. We don't know if we'll ever go back to that, but I like what they created in Han Solo with the Crimson Dawn, and like I want more. So I think if we can make Darth Maul popular again, that's like a hat, like a MAGA hat. It's like, make Darth Maul great again. I think people, if they get interested in Maul, they could revisit this movie as well. Because they're like, why? Wait, didn't he die? So maybe that was one of the incentives of putting him in Han Solo. Is like, oh, maybe people. So that being said, perhaps I should reevaluate this movie. But
here's
it has
a
to
question
go somewhere.
I'll start with you, Brock, on the point that you just brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that we have, the next movie. If they let's just say they're like, we're doing another Star Wars story. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that Disney announces that, and it is the Boba Fett film for whatever reason. And at the end or in the middle of the Boba Fett film, we find out that Boba Fett needs to hunt down something for a Dark Lord, and that Dark Lord ends up being Darth Jar Jar. Does the Phantom Menace like go higher up on people's list?
I think it relates to whether if you had said Darth Maul or Darth Jar Jar, anything that pinpoints you to Phantom Menace, I think is a good move, because you're like, oh, I would like to rewatch this. We've often talked about it would be nice if the episode or the last movie in the Skywalker trilogy would end on Naboo, even though it starts on Tatooine. It kind of starts on Naboo in Phantom Menace, so it's like, I think the closing of this series of Star Wars movies, and then this new Star Wars stories adding on, we're getting more and more of these things. People are gonna revisit them. Would I love a Darth Jar Jar, which I feel is the question trying to ask? Yes, I would, because that would be random.
I think the ultimate thing that would be funny about Darth Jar Jar is more so if he showed up at the end of like the season finale of The Mandalorian, and it was just like, Darth Jar Jar, he's here, and then Darth Jar Jar is the villain in episode 9 as well.
But this is what I mean, though, is they have the opportunity now, especially with what they do with Darth Maul, is they can retcon and be like, you know what, all those fan theories about Jar Jar, screw it, that's all legit. Andrew, would that make this movie number, like, instead of number 10, would that bring that to number 9 or 7 on your list?
Yeah, that would definitely give it a bump. I think it would make it number 1 on every list ever, even if not Star Wars things. It would just pop up. But it's funny because I'm thinking of the canon books that are coming out this year, and 2 of them are very sort of Phantom Menace oriented. I mean, we have that one about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and then we have that one about Padme, kicking ass and taking names as a queen/senator. And so even Story Group seems to be reminding us this year of that point in time in Star Wars lore. So I don't know, maybe they're trying to tell us something.
I'm going to talk about okay, let's get, so we got the 2 guarantees out of the way. I think we all agree. Even though Phantom Menace is 3rd on my list. I'm not even joking. I think we all knew what 9 and 10 were going to be. So let's go on to number 8. And this one surprised me. Andrew's so surprised he left. Number 8 is The Force Awakens. Andrew, don't pass out. Do not pass out.
Wow.
Yeah. This is Number 10 on my list. Andrew, you first.
This is one of those ones where I have no idea where I would have put it. I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. I'm surprised it's that low.
Well, can I just I'm going to intervene. So the next, I think 4 are all separated by like a point. Like it was like literally because somebody put one of them, and I'm pretty sure. So like that's what it is. It's basically the next 4 or 5 are like tied.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, it's but it's still like it boggles my mind that it's this low. I know there was a point of contention about it being too derivative of A New Hope or what have you, but I feel like everybody's off that train now, and everybody just kind of accepts it for what it is. And what it is a lot of fun. What it is a return to form for Star Wars. What it is everything that we love about Star Wars kind of in one little package. It's almost like a greatest hits album. That's how I've come to start seeing The Force Awakens. It's Star Wars Greatest Hits, Volume 1. So the fact that it's this low, it just makes me curious. Like, I wonder why it resonated that little with so many folks.
Rob?
No, yeah, it's true. I mean, I was kind of shocked at it too, as at the same time, considering like all the, obvious hate that, some people have about The Last Jedi and stuff like that, and that it would still rank below that. Obviously, I don't know where Last Jedi is, but Force Awakens is lower than it. But yeah, it's pure nostalgia, right? Like you can say that's derivative of a whole bunch of different Star Wars movies, like how Andrew just said. But I still feel like it's a solid movie in the most part, right? And like for me myself, I like, aside from Kylo Ren, I think characters like Rey, Poe, and Finn all more in Force Awakens than I did in Last Jedi. But that's just me, and I just feel more connected to those characters, at least in the Force Awakens. So yeah, I'm a little shocked that it's that low, but I believe it was pretty low last year as well. So, I mean, what can you do?
It's not as good as Attack of the Clones or Phantom Menace. Brock, what do you think?
So sorry, this is at number 7, Force Awakens.
8, I believe. Right?
8.
Yeah.
So sorry, it's what was number 10? Attack of the Clones?
Yeah.
Phantom Menace and then Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, wait, yeah, we haven't talked about Revenge of the Sith. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I had all my numbers right.
I'm already just like, I'm gonna give up. All the prequels are dead last. Let's go on.
This is clearly the effect when we add our Patreons and all our Star Wars friends. And to quote Revenge of the Sith, so this is how democracy dies, with thunderous applause. Hey, you know what? I love it. This is great that we're including all these other people and getting all these different numbers, because if it would just be the 4 of us or 5 or 6 or, the usual scumbags, we'd get the same thing over again except for the new movie. That's fair. I mean, it's funny because, of all the new Disney Star Wars movies, it's usually one of the higher ones, sort of like right behind Rogue One. But yeah, maybe you don't like the fact that it's too much of an homage to A New Hope. But I don't know. It was a fun movie. It introduced us to characters who are, even if we are frustrated with where they're sending these characters in the new trilogy, we're engaged by them. So you kind of, to see it this low is it's really interesting. But this is the fun part of our new fans.
Well, up next. If you know what other movies are in the list, it's not really that surprising because they're all great.
Are they?
I have Force Awakens. I enjoy Force Awakens, but it's like fluff. It's like nothing happens, and they haven't sent anything happening since. I still don't know who the girl is. Like there's too much. It's eye candy, and it was fun to get back into form, but it didn't. Like when we're talking about the Phantom Menace, we're like, look, now years later, this and this and this. Whereas the Force Awakens feels like, well, okay, yeah, like it didn't do anything for anything really, other than introduce new characters who really don't do anything. except for in Resistance, maybe Poe does. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. That's my problem with the Force Awakens. I feel like it's just empty
Quote James. Quote James. He literally said that Han Solo's death is nothing.
But it's not it's not that impactful. Like, it's not as impactful as it should have been. Obi-Wan's, where we knew him for one movie, is more impactful for Han's when we knew him for 4 movies. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have the oomph. Also, maybe we were all expecting it. I don't know. The next one, Brock, will make you happy. Andrew, it might be a little bit too high on your list. This one, I was surprised at how low it was, given by how high it was on a lot of people's lists. The Sith's Revenge of the Sith. Brock, why don't you start us off?
Revenge of the Sith. You know, it's one of my favorite of the prequels. Oh my god, of the prequels, and yeah, like it's a lot of fun. You know, after Attack of the Clones, it's interesting, but it kind of like, I think it's one of the movies that really pushed Obi-Wan into the interesting character category. He's always been interesting, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the things he does in that movie, it's like, yeah, this is cool, and like a lot of the I would argue the Obi-Wan for Attack of the Sith, or Revenge of the Sith, is the Obi-Wan we see in Clone Wars. I know, I don't want to bring up Clone Wars because it's TV, and that just completely changes outlook on a lot of the movies. But like, that's the kind of character we were looking for. That was General Kenobi we've been waiting for. Great character, and then we get Grievous, who I wish we could have done more with. Obviously, again, Clone Wars, we see a lot of Grievous. So it's a great movie. I think it's boosted by the TV show, which I don't know if that makes it a good movie or not. But it's a lot of fun, and we kind of get to see Vader after so long. I don't know.
Rob?
Yeah, I think it's. I think a lot of times, like when you're just comparing the prequels, a lot of people just, including me in some way too, just place Revenge of the Sith above the other two just because of the amount of stuff that happens, right? How big it is, you know, how many lightsaber fights it has. It's by far the biggest one. It's the one that the most happens in, especially out of all the prequels. It's just that Revenge of the Sith gets bogged down by the execution of some of the big moments, right? Like some of the acting doesn't work out too well, and you know, some of the stuff that holds it back a little bit. So yeah, still it is my favorite prequel, and I still love like a whole bunch of those moments, like the Yoda versus Sidious fight. There's a lot of like really cool things in it. So yeah, I mean I think I had it a little bit higher, but you know, it's above the other two. That's kind of where I expected it was going to be.
I think that I really like Revenge of the Sith. It was my least. It was the lowest of the prequels ranked on my list. It has the worst line delivery in all of the Star Wars films. And execution, you're on the ball. The line I'm talking about is Obi-Wan Kenobi in the elevator shaft when he wakes up. Like, did I miss something? No, I don't know what happened. Somebody dropped the ball. But Andrew has a lot more problems with this one. So Andrew, I'm just gonna put my microphone down and you just talk.
I love Revenge of the Sith. Okay, don't get me wrong. I love it. My 18th birthday was a month after it came out, and everything that everybody got me was Revenge of the Sith related, and we had a really fun time. We played Revenge of the Sith Monopoly till the sun came up. But only 2 Star Wars movies have ever made me cringe, and Episode 3 is one of them. It did so many things right, and it did so many other things wrong. And for me, the good still outweighs the bad, but there's just so much more of the bad than there was in the other prequels that's why it's always last place for me. Anakin, I can't watch anymore. Like, I'm sorry, I'll never be able to like that moment. I'll never be able to like that moment. But I love Grievous. I love Palpatine, and this was his movie, so I'm smiling every time he's on screen. I love the opera. I mean, the Plagueis story, baby. That's such a beautiful story. There's so much to love, and even though I'm always putting this low, don't think I hate it because I Star Wars. It has some moments that I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I can never see past that moment and love it unconditionally like I do with so much of the Wars.
Just like Maz Kanata in a jetpack, you can't unsee certain things. So with next one, speaking of Maz Kanata, there's the Last Jedi, and that is What number are we on? 1, 2, 3. That's 5. It's number 5 on the list. So this is
Wow.
dead set in the middle. It's the last Jedi. Brock just said, wow, I was surprised only because last year so many of you had, of the 5, 3 of 5. That's over half for people that can do math. I can't. Had a number 1, and it dropped. It literally was number 5. It was number 5 on several lists. On several lists, it was number 5. Brock, I think you had it around 5 as well, 4 or 5, or somewhere around there. I think Josh did too. Rob, you had it number 1. So I'll start with you, Rob. Talk to me about The Last Jedi. But do not bring up the Snoke scene. I don't want to hear the Snoke scene. I'm over it.
So what can I talk about then? Can I still talk about Canto Bight? Or are we over Canto Bight?
Someone at work was talking about Star Wars. He goes, I like a lot of Star Wars. I'm not obsessed. But that casino thing sucked.
I know, yeah. I don't believe I've rewatched it at all this year. I just kind of stayed away from it. When I was going to watch Star Wars stuff, I was going to watch more of the other stuff. I rewatched Rogue One. Like I said, I rewatched the prequels. And, it's just a movie that still just kind of like tugs at my nerves a little bit. Like just kind of still hurts me a little bit to think about, like, the possibilities of at least what I wanted out of Episode 8, at least what I wanted out of Last Jedi. There are plenty of people that really liked it, and it's just maybe the saddest thing for me that movie did was maybe a little bit less excited for Episode 9. But it still has some good stuff. Like, we can always remember the Praetorian Guard fight scene against Rey and Kylo. So there's some good stuff in it. Some by Mark Hamill as Luke, but yeah, it's just for me, it's just one of the ones that I'm just gonna always feel sad about whenever I think about it.
This one for me has moments where I think back to when I was a kid for the original trilogy, where Andrew and Rob, you were over at my place for New Year's, and you guys saw my Praetorian Guard show. I have a Praetorian Guard show, and that's one of those things. But they're in the movie for a minute. It's a really cool scene, but that's like when you're a kid, Gamorrean Guard, Ewoks, or Ewoks. But there's still like these little things that kind of Star Wars is about. My problem with The Last Jedi is just it's still to this day is execution. So throwing that lightsaber the way he threw it's a wrong choice, especially for the direction the character went in the rest of the movie. I think they needed something a little more serious and tone for that. For a laugh in that moment was wrong. General Hugs, I think, is also wrong. But Brock will disagree.
Sorry, what was that last part?
You might disagree.
Did I disagree? Yeah, sorry, your audio is just kind of cutting in and out. The first thing I have to say about Last Jedi is, like, I was one of those people that put it number 1, mostly just to shake up the status quo, and I believe I said that last year as well. So Last Jedi, I still like it. I think number 5 is the perfect spot for this, for the one Star Wars movie that literally divides us all. Number 5 is a perfect spot for it. Is it the best? I don't know. I enjoy it. I've rewatched it. There's a lot of fun things in it.
This is number 6.
This is number 6? Oh, I thought you said number 5. Okay.
All right, it's 5.
Well, still, in the middle of the heap is all that matters. But I can understand why people don't like it. Or just it's not one of their favorites. So that's the whole point. It's not a matter if we hate Star Wars. If you don't really like it, it goes at the end. But enough people are liking it that staying in that middle. But Last Jedi, I don't know. we can talk in circles because it's like we're never gonna agree upon this. So,
well, I mean it's Star Wars. We're gonna watch them.
Yeah.
Regardless, Andrew, you had this at your number 1. You traitor to the Return of the Jedi. Oh, I gotta mention also Din. Din was on our list as well. He sent me a list also. So,
nice.
He had this one very high.
Cool.
Andrew.
Yeah, I have this at number 1. It's just every time I think about it, I get happy. I get smiley. I understand how, because of how different it was, I completely understand that a lot of people felt, it let them down. I get that. For me, it was mostly just a matter of this was the first time I felt like we got a Star Wars movie that was about Star Wars. it was almost felt like it was reaching out and grabbing us and talking to us. Everything else was a fun, beautiful fantasy that we can sit back and enjoy. But this one felt like it was like, hey, let me tell you about me for a second. And it's hard to put into words, but like I said, it just feels like a Star Wars movie about Star Wars, about what Star Wars was, what Star Wars is, and what Star Wars could be. And to take such heady, weird concepts and put it into a script and a story that still, as far as I'm concerned, was like really, really entertaining and fun and had some magic and had some laughs and had some action and thrills and everything. That's not an easy feat. So I'm forever going to be impressed with Rian Johnson for being able to do that and to direct, the biggest movie of his career, and sort of juggle all that and come up with a product that is, I feel, as good as it was.
So you and Din had this number one. I think that was it. But yeah, I agree with Brock, though. I think this is perfect placement for The Last Jedi. It's kind of like, because it did divide fans, so it's right there in the middle. Now we have our top five.
Top five. Standing by.
Right, so that was at 6 or was that 5?
That was 6.
I can't count, Rob.
Okay.
No, I can't count. I was counting up. So it's the fifth. Anyway, I can't count. Number 5 is A New Hope. A New Hope. This was one that this is the first Star Wars. I think it should be number 1. But I think, but it was very high on people's lists and very, very low on people's lists. And I was kind of amazed that it ended just above The Last Jedi, but not really that surprised because it is kind of it's impossible not to like this movie. Brock?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's harsh for me to put it in, I think, because I believe I had it in the middle of my list as well. But I have always rated on, like, what movie do I want to watch? And A New Hope's not usually one of the ones I want to watch, especially with the new ones now. Like, Rogue One, I know we're not at that movie yet, but, like, that one shook up the status quo for sure. Like, it's right up there. But A New Hope, I mean, you gotta, I've said it before, too, it's like, it's the original movie. You gotta respect it. It's like the Queen in England. She doesn't have any power here in Canada, but we still respect her as, like, the leader, or not the leader, but, like, the person that's in charge of us. We put her on our money. But, like, at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel like New Hope and Force Awakens should just share a spot because they're basically the same movie. They introduce us. They give us a jump-off point. They introduce, but again, A New Hope. It's on the top 100 films list of all times for a reason. It changed how we looked at sci-fi movies. So yeah, I don't know. I would put it higher, but
I think I agree with you. I'd have it higher, but I can't because I like the other. I like them all.
Yeah.
But when I'm going to watch them, when I'm going to sit down and watch them, where am I going to watch this one? Andrew, where are you watching the New Hope?
Well, first of all, Brock, your comment just puts you on the Queen's list. So sleep with one eye open, sir. A New Hope is so. I feel like it's underrated, even though it isn't, and I can't really describe why. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Attack of the Clones is very underrated, but A New Hope kind of, it gets overlooked, especially now because there's so much more, and that's sort of part one of anything, whether it's a movie series or a video game series, whatever. It's supposed to be a springboard. It's supposed to be almost like a tech demo to get people excited, and then you start chugging in the possibilities in the follow-ups. So part one in a perfect world should always be the worst of the batch because it's it's the baby steps and then you keep learning and learning. But I could never, I can't think of a bad thing to say about A New Hope other than the fact that it just has less than all the other movies because of just the simplicity of the script. But like we have all been, I'm sure all four of us have been in like classes in high school or college where they talk about either writing or filmmaking or both. And I'm sorry, but in those classes, I have never once heard a teacher bring up Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. They always bring up A New Hope as like the master class of writing like a classic form story with hitting the right beats and the right emotional moments. A New Hope is always sort of like the textbook example of that. So even though I didn't have it high on my list, I can't remember where I put it because it's been a minute, but I don't think I have a bad thing to say about A New Hope at all.
I have one bad thing to say. Rob, you're next.
Sure. Oh yeah, I mean, it's funny the way Andrew brought it up about how it's underrated in a certain way too. Like, I've never viewed it as underrated because for me it's one of my favorites. It's one of the ones that I actually rewatch like fairly often. Whether it's like bits and pieces of it. Like, one of the things I like to say about The Force Awakens is that it's one of the most like best paced Star Wars movies, but the only one that maybe is better paced than it is A New Hope. Like, it's literally just folds right into the next part, into the next part, into the next part, right? Like, now here's when you're going to meet Luke. 20 minutes later, you're going to meet Han and all that type of stuff. It's so quotable with like the character interactions, and right away you understand who Leia is. Right away you understand who Han is. Right away you understand who Luke is, right? Like, I just love those moments of it. And yeah, like a lot of times when I am just rewatching and I don't want to rewatch the entire movie, I'll a lot of times just skip to the ending because that just entire sequence is still incredibly fun to watch, whether it is Porkins dying or just the entire sequence of it all. I love A New Hope, and it's always the one that when I think of Star Wars, even though Empire Strikes Back is my favorite one, when I think of Star Wars, I just think of moments from that movie.
I think what you just said hinders on. I know this. What's about the story? Yeah, droid guy, this planet, you're following all that, you're following this, and following it. Just was like, here's how. So you didn't even know Luke was a character until 20 minutes into the movie, and you're like, oh, cool. This. Like, you just follow the story. Nowadays, everything's like, get there, get there, get there. And that was my biggest thing on The Last Jedi was Finn wakes up, where's Rey? Cut to Rey. Rey's like, oh my god, blue, cut the blue. I don't know, I can't remember. But like it's like, it's like, take your time, do exactly what Luke says, and just breathe. And they don't get that anymore, and that's a product of the time people don't have attention spans for that either. Number 4 is the hashtag third best Star Wars film, Solo.
Whoa.
Star Wars story. Well, rock.
What?
Andrew, you had this very high list. Tell me about Solo, a Star Wars story, if you can. How about Rob? You start.
So Solo, it's one of the ones that's still just fun to me, like, just getting all the characters and stuff like that. But it's one that I really liked when I first watched, but from rewatching it and just thinking about it a little bit more, I like it less and like more so. Especially just the thing that I most dislike now about Solo is just the fact that it feels like they just took Han's A New Hope arc and just brought it into this movie, made it happen earlier. And it's, in some ways, them doing that just kind of makes me feel like the New Hope arc is a little less special because they just redid the same thing again, right? Like, this smuggler with a heart of gold who, at the end of the day, saves the day. So that's the one of the things that kind of like hurts me a little bit, but there's still like a lot of really great scenes in it. I'll still always love the whole train heist part of it. All that's really great. And there's just Childish Gambino playing Lando's still really awesome. So,
Fantasia.
Yeah, Solo was last for me. Unfortunately, something has to be last. And again, I don't hate it, but just like I said before, only 2 Star Wars movies have ever made me cringe, and this is the other one. I love so much about it, and then there are other things where I'm just like, I'm sorry, but I can't ever love that. The fun factor didn't go away though, and that just comes from it embracing its fun and embracing the wackiness of Star Wars. And it really, I don't think any movie ever in this entire franchise has embraced the extended canon as much as Solo has. Solo felt like it was, it felt like the Kasdan boys, like the people holding the pen are like us. Like they're sitting there and they're reading Bloodline on their spare time. And they're like, ooh, here's on it. We can mention like they know the same stuff we know, and they obsess over the minutia like we do. I love all those kind of parts of it. I love the new characters we met in the new worlds we got to explore. And Enfys Nest is so cool. There's just, there's things that I understand why they tried to do it, and I don't hold it against them for trying to do new things, but I like seeing what's happening on screen, and a lot of the movie I didn't. There's just I know people have said they love that cinematography, and that's cool, but it's not for me. I don't think in any movie. I'm not just saying that as like, oh, it's not Star Wars. That's fine. Try new things. Try to make it Star Wars. But for me, it fell flat, and I don't think I would like that in any movie. I'd like to see what's going on, especially when it's such a colorful, vibrant world as this. So the good and the bad are there. It had to be last place because the balance wasn't quite right.
Rock?
I like this movie, and it's pretty well. I think I had it at 3, so it being at number 4, even though I reacted like, wow, like it should have been higher. That's pretty decent because about 30 people voted on this, so for it to be high, that says a lot. I feel like this movie needs an asterisk because of the issue they had with production. So I felt it might have been rushed. It was still a satisfactory movie, but I think sometimes that I don't think people have that in the back of their head, like, oh, they had to redo this halfway through. But I think there is a translation of that rushed to finish sort of thing going on that most people subconsciously pick up on. That it's like, oh, this seems like, why does Paul Bettany never come off his ship? Because they only had him for 3 days, or not even less than that. You can say whatever you want. I will defend that Alden Ehrenreich does a very good Han Solo, and I could watch him and Junice Tsunami, I never know how to pronounce his name.
Suotomo, yeah.
Thank you. Be Chewbacca and Han, just over and over. Just give him a show. Give him Netflix, and I will watch it. Like, or not even, sorry, Disney Plus. Sorry, I forgot. When it comes here, I will buy it instantaneously. But I love that. I thought they did a very good job. Them meeting is just like, yes. I mean, we always had a story in Star Wars Legends about how they met, but to actually get a cinematic version of it, even if it is slightly different from the books, it's exactly what you expected it to be, and it was great.
I absolutely love this movie. Andrew gave me a copy of it, and I watched it 397 times. It was one of those movies where Aaron's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm watching Solo. I was taking out of my little Solo mark. Freaking love it. I don't know. It just gets me from beginning to end. It's not perfect, but and just complain about the things that. There's more about The Last Jedi that irritates me than this one, because I don't think they did anything to. This one though, like I said before, and I tell people all the time, I feel like even though Disney Plus has announced that they will not be doing any Star Wars movies on there, this one feels like that is where it should belong, in something on those type of platforms. Let's go on top three. Here we go. The exciting top 3. Will we be surprised? No, because there's only 3 movies left.
Yeah.
Number 3, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Is I still think the beginning of it has. I said this on our very first review, I believe, Brock. The pacing at the beginning is a little bit off, but it is a damn fine film with a great cast. They're doing a Cassian Andor spin-off show, for crying out loud. That's how popular that character is. But on top of it, Praetorian Guard saying I love you, Vader in the hallway, takes the cake. Rob, Rogue One.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the biggest parts right there. Like, out of all these new era Disney movies, that Vader scene is pretty freaking amazing. Just that entire sequence at the end, the final battle, like right there on Scarif, is just awesome. The way they all put it together and all that. You know, rest in peace, Latif and all those guys that may not have made it out. You know, it's got a high body count considering just the entire thing that happens. Like, it's probably one of the darkest Star Wars movies, especially by the end of it all. Because when a kid's watching that and they're like, "I love K2SO," what K2SO? Like, it's really ballsy in a lot of ways, and similar to how you guys mentioned about Solo. What that has to be commended about Solo, that, you know, it just literally got stitched together by Ron Howard. This one kind of got stitched together at the end too, especially with all the reshoots too, right? Like, we can literally watch like the first trailer for this movie and point out like at least 10 shots that weren't in the final product. So considering what they had to do, this is pretty awesome, and definitely one of my favorite new era Star Wars movies, and just one of my favorite movies in general. It's just the build up of the beginning is a little bit slower, like geez.
I wish that trailers wouldn't show anything from the movie, because I watched the trailer in front of a movie I saw yesterday, and it showed the ending of the movie, and people in the theater put their hands up like, "Really? You just showed that in the trailer?" Yeah, I think what Andrew Rogue One.
What'd you say? Andrew, what's your thoughts on Rogue One? Did he freeze?
I adore Rogue One. I really do. And you mentioned, James, the pacing was an issue for some people, and I agree. A lot of people have brought that up about Attack of the Clones as well, that Attack of the Clones has really bad pacing, and even though I love that movie, yeah, Attack of the Clones has some piss-poor pacing, and I feel like the biggest problem with Rogue One is that same problem. Its pacing is sort of just completely off the scale. But having said that, like, it is a fantastic movie with, like, just with all across the board what it did in terms of starting the idea of a Star Wars story. And I thought it maintained the perfect balance of new and old. It was about, 75% new and 25% old. The old stuff was just sprinkled on there. It's like, yeah, here's all these new planets and worlds and stuff, but also here's Yavin 4 as a sprinkle. And oh, here's all these new characters, but here's Mon Mothma and Bail Organa as a sprinkle. They found the right balance for new and old just so beautifully and so perfectly. And then to top it all off, like, that final act, I mean, everybody always talks about Vader in the Hall, and Vader in the Hall is great, but to me, that's just like the cherry on the sundae that is the Battle of Scarif. And, like, still to this day, the entire Battle of Scarif, from, showing up to the planet to the end when Vader reaches the end of that hallway, that whole thing is still one of my favorite action scenes of all time, period. So I could never, ever, stop loving that about Rogue One, and stop loving just the immense success that I think this movie was, considering how scary that must have been for somebody to be like, okay, you got to make the first Star Wars movie that's not really a Star Wars movie, but also is at the same time. I think they nailed it.
Brock?
You know what? I was hoping it'd be a little bit higher, but again, when you talk about New Hope, you gotta talk about Empire and Return of the Jedi. They're the OGs. You kinda can't, the argument about if those two, which one's better of those two, that will always sort of trump Rogue One for the time being, at least. Maybe time will change that. I don't know. I agree, though, with what Rob said. I'm like, oh, yeah, they did a lot of reshoots with Rogue One, or just re-editing and what have you. Like, when we saw the trailer, it was totally different. And we're like, oh, which I've always said is like, oh, they should do that with they should shoot the movie twice for all the Star Wars movies. Yeah. So there's, like, always a surprise. But yeah, Rogue One, wow. Like, it's a lot of fun things happening there. It gives it more, I think the whole fight between the Empire and the Rebellion, this movie gives it a lot more gravitas, because you're like, you got Luke Skywalker, and he's just like, zing, 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 I'm winning, pew, 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 I just found an exhaust port in this massive battle station, and I won the day. It's nice to see that, like, the Empire is a force to be reckoned with, and that there's high casualties, and, like, this is what it would take to do it. I really wish they would make a Rogue 2 where we get to see all these Bothans bring the new Death Star plans. It sounds silly, but they could do it. Like, just do it. Why not? But yeah, I love Rogue One, and I'm very excited for the Cassian Andor show.
It's awesome. I think the pacing, honestly, if you just don't put the words of the planets on it, or you just cut to them being on a planet, I think that actually tightens it up, the pacing, a little bit. I hate words on planets. The only time I ever liked it, though, was in Infinity War when they go to space. That's space. Here we go. 2 and 1. 2 and 1. 2 and 1. We'll start with number 2. So this is flip-flop. This is our third time doing it. This is the tiebreaker. Trying to determine whether or not it is beloved is number 1. But it's not. It's number 2 this time. Number 2 is The Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
Arguably the best film in the Star Wars. Of you stuck-up snobs who like The Empire Strikes Back. We're Ewok fans, apparently. Spoiler. Rob, I'll go with you last.
This is a tricky. I've heard this movie to talk about because there's so much to love again, like A New Hope about first. But at the same time, I'm worried that masses automatically zero in on this as number 1, just because the map, and it has great about it. And again, I'm never gonna badmouth because I love it. I get worried that when other people, do these kinds of lists, it's always number 1 because they feel like it has to be. And opinion, sometimes that means that Empire automatic gets a free pass and the other gets back because it is worth loving. And to sort of try to look at the other movies through that, there's a lot to love about them all. And if we just keep saying, yep, Empire, Jedi, on both of them all the time, though that high on my list, I think Empire and Jedi were number 2. I love it. I'll to try to love it objectively and look at it in lens as I do the other movies. I hope people can also do the same.
Have we completely lost Rob? We might have lost
Rob.
Rob.
I thought you were going to be last. You said I was going to be last after, so I was.
Okay, Brock.
Okay. Well, we don't see you right now, Rob, but hold on. Empire Strikes Back. This is one of those, like, it's a hard choice, because, like, I can easily just say I like Return of the Jedi because of Ewoks. But, Empire, it's just such a polarizing film where it's like, are they gonna make it? Is this like, why is this a happy ending? I'm not sure. Like, it's I don't know. I feel like this is the movie where, like, as much as A New Hope introduced us to this type of film, Empire Strikes Back gave us the flavor that, like, this is what solidified us as fans of Star Wars. Because it's just like, wow, like, the good guys can fail and the bad guys can win. But I don't know, it's, it's far from the adventure tale that we get in A New Hope. So, and they also, like, gave us more of an enriched look at this universe. And we had the Mos Eisley Cantina where you see all these aliens, but for Luke to interact with a character like Yoda, where he's high esteemed, and you're like, oh, there's way more to this. It's not just human men walking around. Like there's more to the Jedi Order. So it's really what dragged us into this universe, I think. And it always has to score high, and it's just a matter of which one you prefer, Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back. And I don't know, it's like Pepsi and Coke. You're still going to get a great product, but you're going to choose one. So still there?
That's an element. It doesn't have Rob.
What? Well, yeah. So Empire Strikes Back is absolutely my favorite movie of them all. It's just the one. It's still the one to look at movies with a critical mind. Like I still don't find any flaws in Empire Strikes Back. It's just so amazing, like with the characters, and the thing that I always just loved about it is you got Yoda, and yeah, you had Obi-Wan in the first one. He's describing the Force. He's trying to make you feel the Force or understand what the Force is, right? Still, whenever I'm thinking about the Force within Star Wars, I'm always thinking about those Yoda lines, right? Yoda talking to Luke in Empire Strikes Back. He just was so well just describes the Force in something just amazing, and that's still just amazing to me. And all the stuff with Han, with C-3PO and Leia, and Chewie on the Falcon, that entire getaway, it's just so amazing. I love this movie, and when I go back to Yoda one more time, when I was a kid, I always looked at Sesame Street and all these other movies like Labyrinth and all that type of stuff. I always looked at puppets, and I thought that those were puppets, right? When Yoda shows up in Empire Strikes Back, I never just think of that like as a puppet. Like I always just feel that that's just a character in this movie, and just feels so real. Just the puppeteering work is just amazing in Yoda. Still, in a lot of ways, just hasn't been matched in a lot of movies. So, yeah, Empire Strikes Back is amazing.
And our number one film in the Star Wars sagaverse is the greatest Star Wars movie because it has Ewoks in it, and it is the Return of the Jedi. Rob, why don't you start us off with Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, so Return of the Jedi is still entirely amazing. People can nitpick at the Ewoks and stuff like that, but the Ewoks are fun. They're if you're a 40-year-old man sitting there being like, I hate the Ewoks and that type of stuff, it's a lot of ways it just wasn't for you. Then in that case, right? Like the Ewoks are supposed to be cute and fun and literally something for kids to have enjoyed and just ultimately loved because of just their interaction with all the other characters. And the Emperor finally takes it to there, and has this amazing, is involved with this amazing final battle between Luke and Vader, and him just being in the middle of it all, just manipulating everything around him. So it's an amazing movie.
Andrew?
Yeah, the Return of the Jedi has so much going for it, and I know the pacing is not for everybody, and sure it may have a few more killer teddy bears than some people would like, but to me it's I look at it as from a 1983 point of view, and I look at it from a point of view of people who are like, oh, this is the last Star Wars movie, it's coming out, and this is going to be the end, and that was a decent closure for a trilogy, and I like that. But I like it even more from a 2019 point of view. I almost said 18. I still haven't clued in that it's 2019 yet. But I like it even more from a 2019 point of view because of the fact that I know it's no longer the end. And I think that it serves now as a really great, amazing chapter in this wonderful, wonderful saga. As an ending, I didn't think it was super strong, but I love it all the more now that it's not the ending, because I feel like it's the ending to a certain hump of the story, and as that is beautiful. And I can't wait to see the real ending of Star Wars, however that may be. But in the meantime, Return of the Jedi gave me closure on a trilogy, and I think it did that remarkably well.
I think that the ending of Return of the Jedi hurts the new 7, 8, and 9. Brock, you're up.
Return of the Jedi. They gave us Ewoks. What else do you need to know? No, I just you got to see Jabba's palace. It's just like an amazing movie. I've always liked it. I would think maybe it's the most kid-friendly movie, I suppose, because there's so many things going on, and maybe that's why people don't like the pacing, because it's just like, let's go have fun. But I don't know. I just always liked this movie, and that's why it's always going to be number one, except for last year where I was like, oh, Last Jedi, let's stir the pot. I will always like Return of the Jedi probably more than all of them, and it is dumbfounding how now we have to be like, oh, but like Rogue One's really good. Oh, but like Empire is like the OG. Oh my God, this is so cool. I liked Han Solo though. Oh, but like, you know, Force Awakens is just a nice reminder of what Star Wars can be. And then Last Jedi just pissed people off. This is great. We're talking about Star Wars, but we've come to a point where like Return of the Jedi doesn't have to be your favorite anymore. It can be any other movie, and you can have a new preference for what type of Star Wars movies, and that's insane. It's a fun time to be alive. What can I say? Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, what's new with you, Mark?
Is James frozen?
I think so. James, you there?
I think we broke the brain.
Yeah, this is our internet. Our internet speed has been going up and down all show. I haven't been able to hear parts of what you guys have been saying, and I haven't seen Rob in like 5 minutes, but I've heard Rob.
Oh, you still don't see me?
Yeah, it just says RM.
Okay.
So I don't know where exactly James wanted to take the show at this point. So I'm sure he wanted to thank all of us for coming together and all the people sending in there and giving us this totally new spin. I don't know if there was any video that arrived and if he's going to edit that in. Oh, he's completely gone now. But I want to thank Andrew and Rob, a.k.a. Darth Ward, for, as always, attending our yearly gathering of the nerds rating their favorite movies. Any final thoughts from the two of you?
Oh yeah, it was great, and especially just having the whole like, you know, patrons thrown in on it just made it a whole lot more interesting. Maybe we can make it a little bit more interesting and introduce the Treks next year. Introduce the Star Treks in there.
I don't even think you understand how this podcast works, but that's okay.
Clearly, I don't.
Yeah. James just sent me a text. His internet just died, so we'll just end the show. Andrew, your thoughts?
Yeah, I echo that sentiment, Rob. I'm really disappointed that nobody had Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire on their lists anywhere. I guess I was the only one. But it's nice to come together like we always do at this time of year and do the impossible, which is ranking these movies. But every time we do, as much as it sucks to be like, oh, I have to put this last or whatever, every time we make these episodes, these ranking episodes, it always reminds me why I like every single movie individually, because I get to talk about it. So right now, it just made me want to go watch them again right now. So I think we did our job, because if everybody else watching feels the same way, then we did our job.
Well, if James was here, you thank all the patrons again. Like I said, I don't know if anyone sent videos, because I said we should do it, but then James never filled me in because he gets all the emails. It would be really cool. I think Erin had her opinion on this, so I don't know exactly how that's going to be put in. But there was probably more to this video. So I can't. I apologize for not commenting on it because I don't know what's about to happen. But thank you for everyone that contributed to this. This is why we do it. We love these movies, and we will see you next year with not a top 10, but a top 11, because we will have episode 9 by this point next year, and it's exciting. I can't believe it. So, as always, I don't have James, so I'll just say it to myself. Brock, you were always scum, and you guys can say Rebel Scum.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.